If you've been through a breakup with an avoidant, then you know that it can feel like they don't even miss you. So then, how is no contact supposed to work? Aren't you just, giving them what they want? How are you supposed to make them miss you when they just wanted space from you in the first place? Well, the truth is that no contact actually affects avoidants more than you think. They might actually be the group who's most impacted by this technique, even though they'd never admit it. And that's because of what it does to their psychology and to their self-image. Hey everyone, I'm Brad Browning, author of The X Factor and breakup coach for over 15 years now here on YouTube. I've been studying attachment styles for a long time because I think they're so important when it comes to understanding our relationships and breakups. Now, if you do know somebody's attachment style, then you know how certain actions will make them feel, and really that is the key to winning a person back. So, how does no contact affect somebody with an avoidant attachment style? Well, we'll talk about how they'll react, but first, how is no contact going to make them feel? Well, number one, they'll feel lonely. Because yes, avoidants do feel loneliness just like the rest of us. It may seem like avoidants don't want or need other people, but really in my experience, that's more of a facade. It's not real. Avoidants are just people who've been hurt. They have trouble connecting with the people that they care about, so their default move is to take space to avoid intimacy and the threat of being hurt again. It's really that simple. But the thing is, avoidants don't actually want space. If they truly wanted to be alone, they could easily make that happen. They could avoid romantic relationships, they could avoid friendships and personal connections, but they don't. They allow people into their lives only to put up walls and keep them out. And this pattern repeats itself again and again. Because of this, avoidants will often feel lonely and alone, even in a relationship. It's the problem the avoidant is always trying to solve, and this problem feels most pressing after a relationship ends and their ex goes no contact. Loneliness is extra triggering for avoidants because of how they struggle to maintain relationships and actually keep people in their lives. So a loss of a relationship is tough for them because they know how hard it will be to let somebody in again. Now, this feeling alone can make them realize how important you are and have them come running back to you. And that loneliness is always going to be worse because of number two on this list. They'll feel like it's their fault for pushing you away. Now, I'm sure many times in your relationship, your ex probably made you feel like you were too much. You wanted too much closeness. You were too affectionate. You were too interested, too sappy. But the truth is that they loved those qualities about you as much as they pushed up back against them. What they really didn't like is that they were never able to feel comfortable reciprocating the way they wanted to, the way they knew you deserved. Because avoidance is ultimately, it's a fear of intimacy. And part of that fear is because this person lacks the skills necessary to connect with another person deeply. They struggle to let you in. They knew that you needed more and doubted their own ability to give it to you. So they pushed you away, and in doing so, they created a situation that led to the breakup itself. They wanted to make it seem like it was your fault, that you were too intense, but really, deep down, they feel responsible. And it's that guilt, that shame, that will actually drive them back into your arms. Because they know that that's the only way to make this right and break the cycle that they've been feeding into for so long. Number three, they're gonna miss being chased. So in some of my past videos, I've talked about the cycle that's created when an avoidant dates an anxious person. Now it's a push-pull dynamic. The anxious person really holds tight and the avoidant pushes away. Now this is an uncomfortable situation, as I'm sure you know, but as with anything, if you do it long enough, it becomes familiar and comfortable in a way. So the avoidant has pushed you away and is waiting for you to come running back, trying to win their attention and love all over again. Now they won't necessarily give it up at this point, but they will enjoy the charge they get from being wanted and desired by you. But when you do go no contact, they're gonna miss that feeling of being chased, being sought after. And without that feeling, they won't feel so desirable, right? They'll say to themselves, I guess I'm not as attractive as I thought if my ex isn't even trying to get me back. Now this can send them into a spiral of questioning their choice to end the relationship and push you away. And number four, they'll miss your presence in their life. Now yes, we've talked a lot about what your ex is gonna feel in the abstract, but I think the biggest thing that no contact does is deny them something they want. Because they're always being chased, avoidants tend to take their partners for granted, and so they don't appreciate, all the good things. And now that they're being denied your presence, they're gonna start to miss you like crazy. It'll be the big things at first, the way you'd always be there to talk to them, your physical touch and your presence, but often it's actually the little things that hurt the most. They miss the way you smell and your jokes and how you always get them a glass of water or a little treat from the grocery store. They'll even miss the things that bug them about you. That's just how love can be. You don't know what you have until it's gone. And number five, they're gonna be afraid that you're upset. Now, I think avoidants are pretty used to feeling like the bad guy in their relationships. And that's because of that cycle of pushing people away. And I mean, it makes sense, right? If the goal is to form a bond and create a life together, the person standing in the way of that is the one in the wrong. So when you go no contact after the breakup, they're going to be worried that you're angry at them for causing the breakup. So your avoidant ex feels blamed by both you and by themselves. And this can be a difficult feeling for them to shake, and it's going to really bring them down. Now, it's not always easy to tell how your ex feels, especially if they're avoidant. So my best piece of advice here is to go to breakupbrad.com/quiz and take my free quiz there on that site. It only takes 5 minutes, and it gives you a real window into your ex's mental state and their feelings for you. In fact, it even tells you what your chances are with your ex, and it gives you some personalized advice on what you should do next to get them back. Again, go to breakupbrad.com/quiz to take it for yourself after the video's over. For now, let's get back into it with the sixth thing that your ex will feel when you go no contact, which is empathy. So going no contact with an avoidant is effectively giving them a taste of their own medicine. They'll immediately start to feel how bad they've made you feel throughout the relationship, and this is going to hit them hard. They'll start to empathize with you and see you as a more fully formed person rather than just some image they've had of you as their clingy ex. And this is why it's important not to let up when you go no contact, because you can't do this in half measures. But how do you actually make this happen? Well, this is a good question to consider because you need to handle no contact slightly differently than you would normally when your ex is avoidant. And that's because of the seventh thing that your avoidant ex will feel when you cut them off. And that is, they're going to feel relief. So we've talked about how pushing people away hurts both the person being boxed out and the avoidant themselves. But avoidants do get something out of it, or they never do it. Because they fear intimacy, when they reject it, they feel an immense amount of relief. They no longer feel like they have to cater to somebody else's needs. They no longer feel pressured to do things that scare them and destabilize them. They get a huge sense of freedom and safety, knowing that you're not relying on them for that intimacy anymore. And while that may be hard to hear, it's important to realize because it affects how you should approach no contact. The good news is that this sense of relief is quite temporary. It's going to fade after just a few weeks and leave your ex sitting with all the other feelings that we've been talked about in this video already. Regret, loneliness, despair. But in order for them to get there, you need to give them a bit more time before you reach out and start the reattraction phase. Because if you reach out too early, you're going to send them back into fight or flight and they're going to go running for the hills the way that they love to do. So you need to wait them out. So how long should you add to the no contact period? Some people say it takes 6 months for no contact to affect an avoidant. I personally think that's quite a bit too aggressive, and your ex is most likely going to move on after that period of time unless you were in a very serious relationship for many, many years. But I will say you should probably add at least a couple of extra weeks to your no contact period when dealing with an avoidant. So it should probably be definitely over 30 days, more like 45 days or more if you really want it to work. Now this is going to be hard for you, but it's going to be even harder for your avoidant ex. Now let's answer a few of the obvious questions about avoidance that I keep getting, starting with, why hasn't my ex reached out? Why does it feel like no contact isn't affecting them at all? Well, the answer is that the way that they react is different from how they feel. An avoidant is more likely to respect your silence and not push, at least at first. So stay strong and don't take their lack of messages to mean anything other than the fact that they're processing. And remember that they're comfortable with space, so they'll be afraid to break the silence, at least for a little while. You may find avoidants reaching out to you as time goes on, when they realize that you're actually serious. But as I said, it is going to take a bit of time. Next, I get asked if no contact is a bad idea with an avoidant ex. Doesn't this just create a stalemate? Maybe you should actually stay in their life, be their friend? Well, actually, an avoidant would love it if you were their friend. Many avoidants will try to keep you around this way. Normally, I'd say, you probably shouldn't be friends with your ex. In this situation, I'd say do not under any circumstances be friends with your ex. Because avoidant exes would love to keep you in their life, but at a distance. This is where they're most comfortable. This way you can stroke their ego and give them attention, but on their terms. You can't have access to them the way that you would as a partner, and you can't make as many demands on them. Now this, of course, is the ideal situation for an avoidant, or at least for the part of them that's afraid of intimacy. So don't do them this favor if you want them back, because they're perfectly happy being your friend and having you pine after them in secret forever. It's just never going to work. And with that brings us to the end of the video. Remember, even if it doesn't feel like it, no contact will work on your avoidant ex because it makes them miss you more than anything else can. Thanks for watching, liking, subscribing, and commenting below, and I'll see you next time right here.